Wife left me while I cared for my dying father, but returned when I inherited his fortune. I'm a 36-year-old man, married for 8 years with 2 children. I'm also the only son of my ailing father. My dad has been suffering from kidney problems for many years, but in the last 2 to 3 years, his condition has worsened, requiring dialysis twice a week. Earlier, he was able to commute on his own, but over the last year, he often asked me to accompany him. He is also growing weaker every day. I made a routine to take my father for dialysis every time. He has to go twice a week, so I fixed Saturday and Wednesday. Saturday is my week off, so it's not a concern. For Wednesday, I got permission from my boss to leave early and then compensate for the remaining hours by working at night after returning home. I've been working in this company for 10 years. My boss knows me as a hard-working and loyal employee, so granting this special permission wasn't a big deal for him. However, the problem was at home with my wife, Sarah, 34. When she learned I would be taking my dad for dialysis twice a week, she got upset. She didn't like it when I took him occasionally, but she never expressed her displeasure up front. Now that I had taken up the responsibility diligently, she couldn't stop herself. She said that there was no point in wasting my time on my father because whatever I did, he would never be impressed by me. Here's a little context. My dad owned a merchandising business and had acquired decent wealth. He wanted me to take over his business, but I was passionate about technology. I loved coding and creating software. So, after school, when Dad wanted me to take up business or management courses, I pursued a software degree instead. He was still fine with that, until I decided to join a renowned tech firm after graduation. Dad wasn't happy that I was working for someone else, instead of continuing his legacy. He kept asking me to join his business, and I kept stalling. After my marriage, Dad asked me one final time if I wanted to join, and I said no. Dad got furious and said he would give all his wealth to charity, and I wouldn't get a penny. I didn't budge from my decision. You see, I was earning well even then. I bought a car and my own house at the age of 29. I was confident that I could lead a decent life without his wealth. I told him that I didn't need his money and could build my own. Our relationship soured after that. 5 years ago, Mom passed away due to cardiac arrest. It was devastating for Dad. You see, I moved out of the house at 17 for college. Then, I got a job and started living on my own. The only companion Dad had was Mom. Losing her was the most devastating thing for him. That's when our bond rejuvenated. I started visiting him often and took my kids to play with him. Eventually, he stepped down from his company and gave it to a trust to run. My wife, Sarah, was never close to my parents. When my mother was alive, Sarah used to avoid visiting my parents, saying that my mother was too nosy in our lives and that they didn't get along. When my father announced he would remove me from his will, Sarah started openly criticizing my parents for being mean and evil. I insisted she stay away from my relationship with my parents, but she always stepped in and said it was something that would affect our future, especially our children's. I assured her that our and our children's future were secure irrespective of Dad's wealth. But she didn't understand. Now, coming to the current situation, Sarah created a fuss when she learned I would be accompanying Dad for dialysis twice a week. Initially, I tried to make her understand that Dad had no one but me. He lost his parents long ago. Though he has an elder brother, he lives at the other end of the city and rarely visits Dad. Dad has become very lonely after Mom's death. In this condition, I cannot abandon him. But my wife refused to understand this. Of late, she has made my life miserable. Every Saturday, she comes up with some plans, either hosting a party at the house, deep cleaning the house, outings with the children, or even grocery pickup. I made her understand that she could plan anything she wanted on Sundays, because on Saturdays, I had to take Dad for dialysis. But she continued with her plans, and then later rebuked me for being late or missing them. I had to rush to my dad to pick him up, take him to the dialysis center, and after it was done, drop him and run back home to her sarcasm and tantrums. It's not just about Saturday. She does the same for Wednesday evenings. I had committed to my boss that I would compensate for the remaining work late in the evening or at night after returning from dialysis. But she always had a plan to trouble me. Almost every Wednesday evening, she would go out, either to meet her family, her long-lost friends, or attend some random party, leaving the children's responsibility to me. I had to juggle my work, cook for the children, feed the younger one, and complete my pending tasks from work. This was after a hectic day at work and at the dialysis center. I know it's getting long, but this is how miserable my condition is. Many times my dad suggested that I let him go to the center with the nurse because he sees me always in a hurry and tense, looking at my watch. After dropping him home, I don't even wait for a second and rush back. Even while picking him up, I ask him to be ready and come outside before I arrive. Dad has a full-time nurse and a caretaker to take care of him, but I still feel bad for not spending time with him. The drive from his house to the center is 30 minutes. Earlier, I used to enjoy chatting with him during that drive about the good old days of childhood. But as Sarah's tantrums have increased, all I'm concerned about is rushing back home. Most of the time, I'm just speeding in traffic, taking shortcut lanes, and overtaking other vehicles to cut down the drive time. This is the only time I get to spend with Dad, and I don't want to ruin that or stop it by asking him to go with the nurse. I, too, have some responsibilities as a son. I'm just not able to bear this woman any longer. Update 1. It is just getting worse every day. My wife is not leaving any stone unturned to dissuade me from attending my father. Her point is that it is a lost deal. Dad had already removed me from his will and had given his wealth to charity, so there was no point in wasting time and energy on him. I fail to understand her. Do we do everything just for profit and loss? What if someone's parents don't have any wealth or are poor? Do their children abandon them because they have nothing to offer? After listening to her tantrums for so many months, I finally told her that she was not going to inherit anything from her parents. So why does she visit them every now and then? Oh my God, she lost her temper at this and said, "My parents did a lot more than your greedy father. They supported me in everything. They are not like your father, who disowned you for not joining his business. My father would have never done that to me. So don't you dare compare my parents to yours." It was not just once. This type of argument is becoming a norm at my house almost every Wednesday and Saturday after I return from dialysis. Just that it is getting severe and ugly at every instance. Earlier, she used to fight with me alone. Now I see her yelling and shouting at me in front of the children. Not only this, but I have also heard her bad-mouthing my dad in front of my children and manipulating them against me and my dad. I heard it and intervened, which again led to an ugly fight between us. Sarah's fights have become a routine for me. On the days when she doesn't fight, I feel something is missing, only she becomes more aggressive the next day. I have almost given up on her. Now, I don't yell back and answer her. I just ignore her as if she doesn't exist for me. What else should I do? I cannot abandon my father just to please her. I don't care if he has kicked me out of his will. He did so because of my own decision. I refused to join his company. He was forced to give his hard-earned business to the trust. It must have been so disheartening for him. That company was like a baby to my dad, and he had to donate it to someone else. He had all the right to disown me because I had hurt him. I sometimes feel that karma is biting me back because I had hurt my dad. On the other hand, Dad is becoming weaker. He is barely able to walk on his own. He needs support to step down to the car. To save time, I used to ask him to come outside and drop him outside the house. But now, I don't care about being late. I go inside to carefully walk him to the car and then drop him to his bed until he settles down peacefully. He is also having shortness of breath, so I make sure to walk him as slowly as he wants. Also, while driving, I drive carefully so as not to overspeed and increase his heart rate. I don't care about going late to my house because rushing to the house was also not helping. If I anyway have to deal with that evil woman, why not at least keep Dad happy? My casual attitude has worsened the situation. And yesterday, Sarah said that I need to choose one of them, either my dad or her. I tried to make her understand that Dad was not going to be with us forever, seeing his condition. It didn't look like he was going to make it long. She came back with a curt reply. In that case, you need to make your choice carefully. Someone who is going to be with you forever, or someone who is going to die soon. This was so insensitive. I told her, you know what? I'd better choose my dad than choose you, who is so evil and selfish to a dying man. She packed her bags and left. I didn't even stop her. She needed some time to cool off, and I also needed some space from her. In her absence, I'm taking care of the house, my children, Dad, and my work. Yet I feel so relieved, so relaxed. Her absence is actually soothing to me. The day before yesterday, she sent me divorce papers. I was somewhat expecting it, but didn't anticipate it to come so soon. I was shocked, but deep down, I was happy and relieved. I didn't call her, just signed the papers and sent them back. Surprisingly, she didn't ask for custody of the children. That was the only clause I was worried about, but she clearly didn't want them. When she received the papers, she called me back, yelling, "How could you just sign it without calling me and pleading with me?" Funny, right? Her mom snatched the phone and shouted that I should have acted like a man and tried to pacify my wife back into the marriage instead of just signing the papers. It was so funny. Why would I do that? She wanted a divorce, and I complied. I was like, it was good for me. I got rid of her without a fuss. I also taunted her that she even abandoned her children and didn't want them. She said I could have all my assets, including my 2 children. She didn't want any of it. Her mother said Sarah was still very young, and she didn't want the baggage of children on her shoulders. I said fine by me. I'm glad to have my kids with me. It is a relief for me, no doubt. But I'm worried about my children. They miss their mom, mostly the younger one when I'm at the office. It is difficult for me to manage all the responsibility alone, but I hope I'll be able to sail through this. Update 2. It's going to be a shorter update. So, I shifted to Dad's house along with my children. It is a great move, I must say. Thanks to everyone for the lovely suggestion. It worked out. Moving in with Dad was good for all of us. Dad got the company of my children, and they got their grandpa to play with. Dad had a full-time caregiver who was ready to take care of my children on a raise. Why not? Someone to take care of my children under my dad's supervision. The best deal, right? It is such a happy feeling to see Dad playing and laughing with my children, and them enjoying themselves with their grandpa. Sarah didn't think this was coming. She wanted to make my life miserable by divorcing me. She thought I would not be able to juggle all the responsibilities together, taking care of the children, my dad, the house, and work. But you see, all is set perfectly. I'm definitely having the last laugh. The divorce was the best thing ever, LOL. Update 3. It's sad news. Dad passed away last week in his sleep. He went to bed happy and content after playing with my children and never woke up again. The doctor said he died peacefully. The doctor, his nurse, and even his caregiver said Dad was happy after I moved in with him. And it actually increased his lifespan to these many months. He was already on the verge of giving up before I moved in. It is very sad to lose your only parent, but I'm glad that he got to spend the last few months of his life happily. My children are also very sad to lose him, but Dad has imparted good values to them. They say that Grandpa used to teach them to accept reality and move on. Life never stops for anyone. I feel so proud to hear such good things from them. They are indeed my strength in this moment of despair. But there is one more shocking news that came after Dad's demise. Dad's lawyer reached out to me, asking me to come over to his office to reveal Dad's will. I said it wasn't required. Dad had already told me that he had given all his wealth to the trust, so I'm fine with that, and he can proceed with the paperwork to transfer everything to them. I asked him if I needed to vacate Dad's house because I was guessing that it was also given to the charity trust. He laughed at me and asked me to just come over. When I went there, I found the trust members were already present. The lawyer had called them as well. When the lawyer started reading the will, I was in tears. Dad has actually willed me as the heir. All his business, his house, his wealth was for me. I asked the lawyer if this change was made recently. I thought he made this change after I started taking care of him. The lawyer smiled and said I was always his heir, and the will was never altered. I was inconsolably crying that my dad never abandoned me. Maybe he threatened to disown me so that I could take forward his business and his legacy. I was still crying when Dad's attorney pacified me. I said it kills me from inside that I hurt my dad all his life, but he always cared for me. The lawyer said that Dad was actually very proud that I didn't give up on my passion under his pressure, and that I was happy to lose my generational wealth to pursue my passion. Dad was very proud of me. The lawyer said that I'm the decision maker of the business, and if I want, I can take the company back from the trust and run it myself. I'm thinking of doing that. I did whatever I wanted to do. Dad indirectly supported me. Now, it is my time to pay him back. I'm thinking of taking it back from the trust and scaling it to the level Dad wanted his business to fly. I came back home and told my children about their grandpa's will. He has given some portion of his wealth to my children as well after they turn 18. Today, we went to his grave with some flowers and spent some time in serenity. It is a very emotional phase for me. Update 4. Oh, the ants came back running on seeing the sugar candy. A month later, after Dad's demise, I started taking over his business and other community service work. First of all, I quit my job and took over the business. Then I rented my house because my children and I decided to live at my parents' house. They feel connected to their grandpa in this house. This house has my childhood memories, so I also don't want to leave it. With the news that I had inherited my father's million-dollar wealth, I got many visitors at my house, long-lost relatives, friends, and neighbors. But the most surprising visitor was my ex-wife, Sarah, and her parents. They entered the house sobbing that they didn't know about my father's demise, or else they would have attended the funeral. Her parents went on to say all good things about my dad. Sarah hugged the children and cried about how much she missed them. I asked her if she missed them so much, why didn't she visit them in the last 7-8 months? She said she went to our house, but it was locked. What a BS. I was like, weren't you worried about your children when you saw the house was locked? Didn't you feel it necessary to contact me and check if the kids were fine? She had no answer. Her parents were like, let's forget whatever has happened in the past. Now that my father was gone, the children would be left alone in the house when I was at work. They need a mother, so it was better that we reconcile. I laughed at their faces at this suggestion. The children needed her the most when she left them to me. Now, the children have gotten used to her absence, and I don't want her back in my life. She started crying. Her parents left us alone. She held my hands and pleaded with me for reconciliation. She said she loved me and missed being with the children. I laughed and said, you know what? You don't love me. You love the wealth my dad left to me. You and your greedy parents are here on my door, just to leech on my money. I don't regret using those words for her parents because that's what they are. She also called my dad greedy and mean during our divorce. There was no way I was letting this woman have a penny for my dad's hard-earned money. She got offended that I had abused her parents. She said until now, she was pleading with me because she loved me. But now she would take what is rightfully hers. She didn't demand any alimony for the divorce. But now she needs half of my wealth. Rather, half of my dad's wealth. I told her she could do whatever she wanted. I'll destroy her but not give a penny. She abused me and left. I discussed this with my lawyer about this possibility. He said that her chances were slim. The divorce had settled a year before I got the inheritance. Besides, the children were with me, so there was no way she could get anything. But he also asked me to be careful about letting her spend time with the children. She could manipulate them and file for their custody and then later use them to demand money for their maintenance and all that. I couldn't be more thankful to him for this advice. I'm going to supervise their meeting. I'm also spending a lot of time with the kids these days to help them cope with the loss so that they don't run to their mommy for emotional support. I've undertaken my dad's company, so it gives me a lot of flexibility to manage my well-being and personal life. I'm planning to take the kids on a vacation in the Bahamas. Yeah, why not? They deserve this lavish vacation. No, it's not about overspending my dad's wealth. I could have also afforded it, but I didn't have the time earlier, juggling work and taking care of Dad. Now that I can, I want to take them out. As far as Sarah is concerned, she hasn't contacted me since her last visit. I think she's busy knocking on every lawyer's office to file a suit against me. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed our stories and would like to hear more, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you captivating tales and new content every week. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We appreciate every one of you for being a part of our storytelling journey.